Welcome back, everyone, to Cheddar Politics. Donald Trump is going to emerge into the political world once again. This at the Conservative Political Action Conference. The event kicks off today in Orlando, and the former president is set to headline CPAC with a Sunday keynote address. So here to discuss what to expect at CPAC is Gabby Orr, National Political Correspondent over at Politico. Gabby, good to have you here. Obviously, this is going to be the first time we're going to hear from President Trump since he left office. Do we have any indications on what his speech potentially is going to focus on? Are we expecting him to make any sort of big proclamations or announcements about his future?
He's going to use half of this speech on Sunday afternoon to talk about the Biden administration's undoing of a lot of his policies that he pushed when he was in office. I've been told by aides close to the former president, that he'll be talking about the Biden administration's agenda on China, on Russia, on immigration. That issue in particular is expected to get a great deal of focus in the president's remarks. And then the rest of the speech, I'm told, is supposed to be about Republican Party unity and praising those Republicans and conservatives who have carried forward President Trump's agenda and are committed to advancing a lot of the policies that he wasn't able to accomplish during his 4 years in office. He's obviously spent the past few weeks taking shots at Republicans who he feels have been disloyal to him, including Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. It's unclear if he's actually going to go after McConnell by name in his speech at CPAC, but there will definitely be some pot shots at Republican lawmakers who have drawn his ire in the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's so interesting, Gabby. President Trump didn't even speak at CPAC. He basically, didn't even go to CPAC in 2016. But if you look at what's happening at CPAC this year, it almost is tailor-made to things that President Trump is obsessed with. There's panels on the election claims. There's a whole panel on why judges and the media refuse to look at the evidence regarding the election. There's also cancel culture segments as well. Is this basically showcase that President Trump has an incredibly dominant hold on the party when all of CPAC is essentially dedicated to his thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the agenda for this year's conference really shows the hold that he has on the conservative movement and the direction in which, policy ideas and conservative ideology has shifted under Donald Trump since he kind of entered the political stage back in 2015. You mentioned a lot of the focus that will be on election integrity and election reforms. I think there's 7 panels that will be focused on that topic. There's 5 panels that will be focused on China, which is obviously a big issue for Donald Trump. We heard a lot of anti-China rhetoric out of him and out of his administration over the last 4 years. And then, as you mentioned, the title of this year's conference is America Uncanceled. And for the past several months, the former president and his allies have been almost uniformly focused on cancel culture and what they claim is, the alleged disproportional censorship of right-wing voices and conservatives. So I do think that in many ways, the CPAC agenda really speaks to kind of the tight grip and the overwhelming influence that Trump has on today's iteration of the conservative movement.
Yeah, and Gabby, even just looking at the politicians that are scheduled to attend CPAC, I mean, Ron DeSantis, Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, former Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, Senator Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton, Josh Hawley, most of those people would have been potential 2024, nominees for the Republican nomination. Is this an awkward situation for them, given the fact that President Trump, who's likely not going to announce any sort of big things for 2024, does this put them in an awkward position because they would have used CPAC to sort of launch their next step in terms of their political aspirations?
Well, you're definitely going to see those names that you mentioned use CPAC to road test their new messages and stump speeches that you could potentially hear from them in 2024. Of course, it's unclear still if Trump does want to mount a comeback bid in 4 years to try and get that non-consecutive second term in the White House. But I don't think that that's necessarily going to impact the rhetoric and the speeches that we hear from a lot of those figures. And one thing that is important to mention is that a number of the names that you just talked about have actually been vying for kind of the Trump lane of the 2024 primary. Kristi Noem is hosting a fundraiser down at Mar-a-Lago this weekend. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, just recently met with President Trump at his Mar-a-Lago resort. So a lot of them are maintaining close ties to the former president. In the event that he doesn't run, they'll be, in line seeking his endorsement.
Yeah, and the other name that's not on CPAC but also did go to Mar-a-Lago, Nikki Haley as well. So you're absolutely right there, Gabby. Gabby Orr, national political correspondent over at Politico. Good to have you here, Gabby. Thanks for joining.